continuing our explorations of quantum body. Today I want to summarize some of the paradigm shifts that are happening in the field of quantum mechanics, but I would say the paradigm shifts are happening in our understanding of reality. So just to take a little bit of historical context, modern physics, despite its advancements, has not explained the nature of consciousness. It only explains the nature of matter, not realizing that matter itself is a mode of knowing in consciousness. Any object, you can take any object, this ring, this hand, these glasses, this watch. Before we can call it an object, it's a perceptual activity. So you cannot have the experience of this object as form without seeing. In fact, seeing turns the formless into form. Seeing turns the formless into form. So the formless is you. And when you see yourself as an object, it is because you're actually seeing your own perceptual activity. Seeing is the form. The formless experiences itself as form through what is called seeing. Just like the soundless experiences itself as sound through hearing. And the tasteless experiences itself as flavor through tasting. And sensation, touch, experiences itself as solidity through sensing, touching. Now, sensing, touching, tasting, smelling, thinking, feeling, doing, speaking, these are activities in consciousness. They create the appearance of a changing physical body. But what is actually happening is all you're experiencing is yourself as awareness in that form, in that sound, in that flavor, in that taste, in that smell. In other words, the whole physical reality that we identify with, our body, the world of objects, is actually a modified form of ourself. In other words, no experience happens in the physical world. In fact, the physical world is a perceptual activity in consciousness. So the physical world is the appearance of the formless as form. It's the appearance of the soundless as sound. It's the appearance of that which is without sensation as sensation. And so once we begin to understand that what we call the real world is actually the virtual world, and the real world is actually the formless world, and that formless is timeless and eternal, then we will be able to integrate some of the challenges that we are having today in trying to understand reality without awareness in which the reality is experienced. So even if we came up with a unified field theory, let's say, you could unify strong, weak interactions and gravity, that still wouldn't explain consciousness, because it is consciousness in which these theories are being conceived. So right now, the challenges in explaining consciousness are because we think of the quantum field as objective, as the fundamental ground of reality. And because at the moment, science is unable to link consciousness to quantum phenomena. And this has led to intense debates among scientists, philosophers, and spiritual thinkers. So, how about if we actually think of consciousness as the most fundamental field and see consciousness as an infinite, vast, shared, not individual, field of infinite possibilities, the superposition of infinite possibilities of experiences. Then we'll realize that mental experiences are energetic fluctuations within the consciousness field, akin to subatomic particles in the quantum field. And we know that mental activities influence biology, blurring the distinction between mind and body, because they're all modified forms of awareness. The mind is a subtle, modified form of awareness, and the body is a perceptual, gross form of modified awareness. When we go deep into this, there's obviously rejection of local realism. We realize that what we call physical objects are entangled perceptions in consciousness, and that the notion of isolated, separate entities starts to disappear. And then we automatically realize that the observer and the observed are intertwined at the quantum level. In fact, they're one. The observer and the observed are differentiated aspects of the single subject of experience, which is non-local awareness. And so, as a result of this understanding, I think sooner or later, it will become obvious that the only evolution that occurs is creative evolution of consciousness. That there's no such thing as physical evolution. That is the form that consciousness assumes as a result of its own self-interaction. And so the emergence of various biological organisms and phenomena is just the emergence of different modes of the one infinite being knowing itself as all these forms and phenomena, and all these so-called local observers, local observations, and local things observed, when in fact nothing is local. So once we adopt this idea that consciousness is a field and it extends the current understanding of the quantum field, because it is the quantum field itself is imbued with subjectivity, then both consciousness and quantum fields will represent infinite potential and challenge traditional views of reality. And I think it's about time, because the collapse of the unified field theory on physical grounds is certainly happening. Nothing physical is ultimately physical. So these are a few bullet points on consciousness and the quantum field. Consciousness is the quantum field, imbued with both subjectivity and also inferred as an objective reality, when in fact they're both different experiences of consciousness itself. I hope this wasn't too confusing, but take a stand that you are the awareness in which both past, present, and future are known. Is the past evolving into the future, or is the future moving into the past, or are they both happening now in the eternal presence of being? Because that's all there is. Eternal presence of being eternal presence of presence, awareness. And as long as we can relate to that as the self, then all bodies, all minds, and all phenomena are actually reflections of the self, appearing as that painting, appearing as that book, appearing as this body, but they're all the self. The self is all there is. To realize the self is to know one's infinite being. Somehow there's joy in that. There's happiness in that. There's peace in that. And there is nothing to seek in that. Just being. Even before you say, I am a human being, I am precedes that experience. I am a human being. A human being is now a form, a process in the eternal now, which is presence.